How's it going, everyone? It is Thursday, January 25th, 2024, and this is the video for today. So, as always, we're going to go over our market bias. We're going to go over the pick from the last video and the prior videos that are still open, and then I will give you guys a pick for today. So, to start things off over here, let's look at the market on a longer term basis. So, we know from our previous videos, our long-term technical and fundamental bias has remained the same. This is not really going to shift video to video, but you do need to know what could shift it, which means knowing the macro forces driving the market. So we know that the market is driven by the bottom line. What impacts the bottom line? Interest rates, bank failures, credit crisis, economic reports. So those things that move the needle and impact the bottom line is what's going to move market at the institutional level, right? They are thinking, what is the market going to be 1 year out? How can we maintain the most consistent returns for investors, minimizing risk and maximizing reward? So that's what they're looking at a fundamental basis. We don't have the data and the research to understand what they do, so we follow what they do using price. All of their information and research is distilled into whether they buy or whether they sell. So we know that institutions are buying, and we know that they're buying because the price is moving up, and we have good volume, and we had very minimal dips. Only institutions can make this move so strong and so quickly. So on a macro basis, we got some minor news overnight. We had the GDP report coming out that beat expected, which was very, very good. The core PCE was stable. The ECB maintained its current rate. It didn't announce any rate cuts right now, but it may announce them in the future. It's still maintaining a pretty hawkish stance. It wants to see inflation below 3%, closer to 2% before they start considering rate cuts. I'd have to go back and see what the Fed rhetoric is, but I would assume it is on the same lines, even if the percentages may not be as exact as what Lagarde had said over there. Some other major news, we had earnings. We had earnings coming out for some major stocks. So let's take a look at Tesla. And you don't have to know what goes on in the earnings report. You just have to know that it was not what institutions wanted, and they started selling Tesla. Super, super weak stock for today. If you do look at the earnings beat, and I was just looking at what Trade Exchange had said, some revenue was lower than expected, and they had some slow guidance for the rest of this year, but they're trying to be optimistic about 2025. So there is some lack of confidence on the institutional side based on that new information. Let's look at IBM, which is a stock on the contrary. IBM, massive move up after earnings. You can see it's been really strong since here. Super strong rally. Pretty overextended right now, so I'd wait to see how these gains get digested. But IBM doing very, very well. So just some profit taking going on today. Massive volume. And this was the opposite. I mean, they didn't have a crazy beat on their EPS and revenue numbers, but they issued some potential job cuts and some really strong free cash flow. They say the market for AI is strong and it's in high demand. And, that is a huge part of their core business. So, again, you don't have to know this, but it just goes to show that, this is big season. It kind of confirms some of the macro forces that are in play for these companies. So just knowing what's kind of going on in the background. Anyways, all that matters is that we really are bullish. Technically, again, pretty obvious. Not a lot of dips. Digest the gains, broke the all-time high. Digesting some of the gains here again. And we are above all the SMAs, above AVWebQ, above the 8 EMA. We're broken through all these high plus trend lines. There's no high minus trend lines in the way. So it's really just, there's no bag holders over here. It just is, do institutions feel that this level is at a proper valuation, right? Are stocks properly valued. And when we get mega cap tech next week, when we get the FOMC next week, we will get some more information as to what the macro conditions will look like for the next few months. So long term, again, we are bullish. Let's zoom in to a shorter term time frame here. We can see that after this digestion, we broke through all-time high, nice volume, climbed up higher, and now we are starting to compress here a little bit. Inside day, unable to get past the prior day high. And hitting a little bit of profit taking here at around 489. So that is the resistance. And I believe the support is also around this gap over here, right around 485. So this is a pretty nice move. If you have really strong stocks, they are going to work in your favor. But the intraday price action is pretty tough. I mean, this day was a very nice day for intraday price action, but the last couple of days, if you look at the charts, have just been really, really janky. I mean, the market is not giving a lot of help. See, this is a dead day. This is a pretty dead day. This is a little bit of a tricky day. Had a bearish reversal. We're going to get to that in a second with my AMD pick. This day has the makings of a pretty similar idea. And I often see this where you have a move and the second day you have another low volume day that sort of copies the prior day because the volume is so low, right? We get this move down. We make this double top over here. And then after the double top, we break through the low of the day like we did here. The only problem is this is a little bit more compressed and way choppier. This has a bit more of a bearish tone to it initially because there's more profit taking initially. However, we know that buyers have scooped it up after this level based on some of the earnings and the minor news coming out overnight. If we're also ever curious about these overnight reactions, you can see, okay, what came out at 8:30? How did the market respond? Well, it liked the GDP data. That's why it moved up higher overnight. You can see that it was, moved up a little bit on the overseas session, but it was not a huge move, right? I mean, I don't know, close 44, it moved up $1. So, a small movement, nothing crazy. So we have a nice gap here. And another thing with these gap fills is you can look at the price action for the day and gauge the momentum. This is horrible momentum because both sides are really jousting here. There is profit taking going on, but there are buyers also coming in and supporting at this level. So even if we do get a gap fill here, we know there's going to be buying reinforcements because we saw that yesterday. The market closed here, wasn't able to break through, right? Buyers came in here, buyers came in here, buyers came in here, buyers came in over here, and buyers are coming in this whole day. So you really can't feel comfortable being very bearish unless you have a very strong stock and you'd only day trade it. But again, you don't have a lot of confidence being super bullish because we are below VWAP. There could still be some more profit taking, some more supply that we have to work off. So it's you have to be patient, and I'm definitely swing trading more. I'm not day trading as much, and just letting the moves in strong stocks go in my favor. So let's review the pick from the prior video. Oh, almost did the wrong chart. Let's not do the wrong chart because I always do that. Okay, so AMD. So when the video came out yesterday, here was the context of the market. This is what I was seeing, right? And this is what AMD was doing. So I really, really liked how it was grinding up higher. And I said in this video, as long as the market doesn't completely tank and take out the low of the day, AMD should be holding up pretty well. Well, turns out that's what happened. The market tanked, took out the low of the day. So I was adding here. I had a nice, felt fairly confident about the stock, was close to my profit target. And I said 181. So we got around 150, was compressing a little bit. And then we see that the market tanks, AMD also tanks. But here is the beauty of relative strength. It finds support at VWAP when the market is crushing and making new lows throughout this entire move. So definitely gets pulled back here, but it finds support at VWAP and this level right around here. Higher low, double bottom. And then this morning, I had a profit target of 183. So at the open around 183.41, I took profits. My target was filled, and I took some nice profits on that stock. You can see it's a little bit choppy. It's still holding the gains pretty well, right? If we, again, look at the SPY chart over here, look at AMD, holding the gains pretty well. But, you know, there's, with some of the information and news coming out next week, I'm not trying to get overboard on some swings. So, you know, I was like, all right, I'm around 178 after I added to AMD once it showed this relative strength here today. I did average down on the position, but it had confirmed support and my market bias was still strong. And I knew that I could add to the trade if it kept working in my favor. So I like what I'm seeing in AMD here. And the final thing I say is you can see how it's finding some support at the prior day high. So buyers are, when it hits this level, they are really interested. So, I mean, it's still a strong stock in my opinion. But added to here, and then I took profits on this trade. So that's the power of relative strength. I got the market totally wrong, right? Like if I was long here with the market, I mean, I guess I would have taken a small loss. Maybe I could have got lucky and take a small win or a scratch. Instead, I took nice profits on AMD. So that is the edge. That's why it's so nice. Let's look at some of the picks from the prior videos over here. Let's start with our very first one, which is AMGN. All right, and let's look at this D1 chart first. So again, no technical violation here, but it is rubbing up against some resistance here at this 310 level. So again, we have some time until earnings. I'm willing to give it a chance. LRSI has crossed back up, which is very, very nice. It initially crossed down, and see it got faked out slightly, but there's no technical violation. So I'm kind of using these in conjunction over here, compared to. Here's a pretty nice comparison where it was broken. If I look at Affirm, oh, that's going to be very interesting. JPM over here. So Affirm had the crossover here, and then it confirmed the breakdown here, and that's when I actually was long here earlier in December, and then I took the loss over here as it could not get through this resistance. So comparing that to Amgen, where it's not the strongest, but it's digesting some of the gains. It's pretty choppy. And then all you need is just one big pop-up, and that's a nice opportunity to take some profits. So if it holds us here, we get a higher low double bottom, which would be very, very nice. And I'm still here. I'm still holding Amgen. You just have to be patient with these because, again, it's not making a technical violation, but you reduce your profit potential on this because it's not really responding with the market. Okay, Guild. Guild is pulling back to the 8 EMA, right? If you took the loss over here at 77, you know, you could have avoided $3 over here. So it took half a loss here, still waiting. It poked back into the gap here. Now it's kind of getting back to its 8 EMA. I'm still quite bearish on the stock, but I do plan to take do plan to take profits on the stock fairly soon. I do want it to see it's starting to move up here and starting to test this gap right here. This high, I guess it's open around 80.50. So if we were to draw a line at 80.50, it's 80.60, so somewhere around here. Here's the gap, broke through. So I'm going to take profits, take the loss around this gap because it's provided some resistance over here. And I believe that is independent of the market. You see it's getting relative weakness in this time, while the market was actually not super weak. So to me, that suggests some gap resistance. There is some heavier volume coming in over here. So I am actually going to set a target after this video to take profits pretty close to this gap, 840-ish. and, or sorry, take the loss and, save $3, right? I took a better loss on a position that went super, super against me. All right, our good old favorite elf. Let's take a look at this guy. Oh, elf. Cannot get past this level over here. Still no technical violation. You can see LRSI is moving back down. So if you're leaning on this more, you could take the L. I like this support over here. The real question is, can ELF get back to its new high before earnings? We can see also if this stock rallies into earnings using this feature. So that's something I like to check here. So I'm going to sort it by name. It's not something that rallies into earnings. Let's look at the bearish side here. Does it sell into earnings? That could be a force going against the stock. Doesn't look like it sells into earnings either. So it looks like it's pretty neutral with regards to either of those. So still a hold, pretty weak. It's kind of in the same boat as AMGN, in my opinion. All right. So ABBV, again, I day traded this and I laid out my reasons. If you wanted to swing this, you could, but we do have earnings coming out pretty soon. I'd say next Friday, I believe, is the earnings date. So you still have about a week left on this. On our market move higher, it could start to move up. Again, it's something that you want to see. ABV sells into earn, so that is a force that may go in your favor, or sorry, may work against your favor. So if you day trade it like I did, you should be okay. But if you're swinging, know that this may provide some stiff resistance. You may have to look to take a better loss on that position. So it looks like those are all the picks from the prior video. Let's go over some picks that we can go today. So first one that I really liked here was AAL. So first thing, nice breakout here post earn. A lot of technical stuff that it's moved through. Heavy volume. Nice price action moving up. A little bit of profit taking moving up. A little bit of profit taking. Heavy volume and fairly ignorant of the market preserving these gains. The other thing is that airline stocks tend to move together. There's not a lot of airline earnings left to go out. There's only a few. I have these listed out over here. So I believe ALK may have to report. No, JetBlue, sorry, has to report. And then Save has to report later. But you can see AAL, clearly the strongest of its sector, and it's the one leading the charge. I really like this one. I have an alert here on an LRSI cross. So once I get this LRSI cross on the 5-minute basis, then I'm going to enter for a longer term swing. I would use this 200 SMA as a stop. If you wanted to, you can even probably do a put credit spread. So actually, let's check out the put credit spread real quick. See if this is something that could work going into next week. So we just had earnings here. Let's look a month out. Feb 16th, maybe Feb 23 here. We can get a nice price and we can sell the 14,350. That's a pretty decent one. That could work pretty well. But you'd need to get 10-cent credit on that. So probably on a pullback, if it pulls back here, I think you could get the fill on AAL. I like that. You have this this breach right here. You have this 200 SMA to lean on. The 8 EMA will climb up higher, and you have this gap coming up. So I like that. I think it could work. It might be something I do, but airlines are pretty seasonal and choppy, so you just kind of have to know how they move. But I like that for the duration of the next month, especially with my market bias still being bullish. So AEL is a really nice pick. The other one that I was liking here was Adobe. You can see how it broke through its gap over here, inching up higher. Already had earnings recently, so it was a negative reaction. But we held some of the gains, and we are still sort of plowing higher on the stock. The one thing that's standing in the way of Adobe is this gap fill over here. It's providing some resistance. So I have this end of day trend line coming on Adobe. If it's able to kind of break that and come through the gap, maybe a couple of green candles, then I would be interested in taking the stock. And I believe it has a really nice swing potential over here. Let's do a good to cancel line, actually. This is the all-time high on Adobe. If we look at that, it's 633. So you have a good amount of room to the all-time high, about an maybe half an ATR there. But you have lots of room to this high plus trend line coming into play around 660, 665. So I think Adobe's pretty nice. It's just not quite ready yet. The other thing I'm bidding for here is the WDC earnings time spread. So I'm not going to get into too much on these, how it works. I would read the wiki and check the one option posts if you're not looking at that. But basically, your average move is less than your expected move. There's a lot of IV difference. The number of times exceeded, the percent of times exceeded is less than 20%, and very high option liquidity. So you can get some smaller bid-ask spreads and some smaller fills. So if you look at this, I'm selling the $60 call and trying to buy the $60 call next week. And then we'll see if it gets filled. If it doesn't get filled, that's okay. I have a price in mind. I don't want to compromise on that price. And earnings time spreads can be tricky to profit. There's a lot of factors in play, and you really have to trade a couple of them to get a good idea. It's also tough to paper trade them because the fills are such a big part of the strategy. Getting good fills and getting out of it with certain profit targets, adjusting it based on what you see is an art. It's hard to replicate that on paper. Some other stocks that are looking pretty good right now. So if you, again, and this is a really good exercise to do, if you want to design a custom search, you say, okay, well, what stocks are relatively strong in the D1? What stocks would be above their prior day high and above VWAP? So if you have just those criterias, you can get a pretty nice list of things to do. So I'm going to put above prior day high, above VWAP. I should probably really edit this so it's a little bit better. All right, so if I just like scan, I already get 56 items, which is a little bit much. So what we're gonna do here is, let's see what stocks are strong on a M15 LRSI basis, okay? And maybe it's what's some stocks that have good relative strength. Okay, so that didn't change. Let's see if there's any stocks. I would like a stock that's maybe above all its SMAs. So that's a pretty easy search. Okay, we got 20. So this is a pretty decent list, and you can change the SMA search. It just gives you a pretty nice D1. You can see here we got some energy stocks, some defensive, some financials over here. AAL, top of the list. And you just go through some of these options. So let's check out AER on the daily chart. All right, so AER is pretty good. You can see the M5 is a little bit choppy, but it's a slow grinder up. Nice breakout over here. There's another long-term high plus trend line coming into play. This is a very long-term high plus trend line. So I would be a little careful just because this is such a long-term one. We're at this top end of this choppy channel, and it tends to be a pretty choppy stock. So you see it tested back here, got rejected, and now it's making another move higher. We still have some time before earnings. So it's looking okay. Take a look. APO. APO is a pretty decent D1, steady grind higher. It's not bad, but I'd like to see just a little bit nicer of a chart. I'm not crazy about that D1 chart. The price action is okay. This is super choppy. Wouldn't trade it that much. ETN, another steady grinder up. GD is defensive. I'd seen that earlier today. Really nice move up post earnings. If it can hold this level, they're going to be pretty good. Market's tanking a little bit here on this bearish 1OP cross coming up. GGAL is it's actually a pretty nice breakout. This is a foreign bank, so you'd have to be a little bit more aware of overnight moves. Perhaps a nice day trading opportunity, but there is a little bit more overnight risk in my opinion, so you just keep an eye on that. HLT is pretty nice. HLT is a pretty nice, steady grinder today. Moved up higher, just kind of holding all the gains today. Not an insane volume, but pretty decent volume. Doesn't get too ahead of itself. Let's see when it has earnings. Earnings on 2/7, so you have some time before earnings. HLT is pretty nice. We're going to add that to the one of the picks of the day. This is a pretty nice breakout. Pretty choppy stock, though. Again, you don't know. You see a lot of wicks here. You need to make sure it closes on its high. If it closes on its high, then I'm much more confident in taking this as a swing. Even so, this D1 chart is really choppy and horrible. I mean, it's gone absolutely nowhere in these past couple of months. Not the biggest fan of that. Maybe an overnight swing, but it's probably something I would skip, to be quite honest. Not the D1 chart that I like. NRG is pretty nice. We have this high plus trend line coming in here. I don't love those. Probably a little bit of resistance. Still could break through. Utilities over here, decent, but utilities aren't like a game changer. Looks like it just does electricity across a couple of different things. Uranium was popping off for a while recently. If you looked at CCJ, that was a big mover. Owl is pretty nice. Owl financials. Check the earnings day, 2/9, so we have some time. Nice move up higher, digest the gains, making its second leg. Price action is okay on the M5, but it's holding up pretty well here, given that the market has declined so much. So Owl is also a pretty nice one, I would say. Choppy stock. I prefer getting it on these right after the pullbacks, somewhere here. Like this would be a pretty nice entry, or here. Versus when it breaks for this new high, it tends to chop back a little bit. So on these pullbacks, I think the entry is a lot stronger. Really nice move over here. All right, we're going to finish going through this list, and then I will give my pick for the video. PAA, nothing to see over here. PBR, it's decent, but the D1 is just not great, and you can see that there is some horizontal resistance coming into play. Let's draw that in right here. Oh, would you look at that? Wow, that's crazy. Look at that horizontal resistance. Never would have seen that one coming. Wow, look at that. Look at that. Look at it get stalled right over here once and then trying to wrap it up again and get stalled again. Okay. So, can it break through? Sure. But horizontal resistance, I'd wait to see. Wait for that confirmation. PSX. Phillips. This is actually pretty nice. Got some room to this high plus trend line. Choppy stock. You have a nice bullish flag formation over here. Energy is finicky. Energy and oil are finicky. So, I don't have a ton of confidence taking these energy stocks. It's just it's really hard to trust breakouts. But if you do well with them, go for it. It's not a bad looking chart. This is okay. Again, you can see some horizontal resistance coming into play. Probably right around here, somewhere there. A lot of touches, so we're pretty close to that. Again, basic maths, nothing crazy. So let's look at our top picks here. Adobe is going down, so not crazy about that. So we have AAL. And what we're doing here is seeing how well does this hold up to the market. Holding up pretty nicely to the market. So I like AAL. And then we have HLT. Oof, HLT is a nice chart. HLT is very nice. The one thing I would do is check if there are any peer earnings. So let's just check MAR quickly. MAR is reporting on the 13th, which is later. MAR is also quite strong, and this is a nice breakout over here. That would be a nice opportunity to take profits. A little bit more overextended, in my opinion. You can see that HLT compressed and broke out over here. This is a tough one. I kind of like both charts quite a bit. HLT is a little bit more consistent. This is tough. I think I'm gonna go with HLT. I like this D1 a little bit better. I like the price action a little bit better. The move is pretty fresh. With these earnings trades, there is not There's a little bit of volatility. They may have to digest some gains. Airline stocks, this is a nice breakout over here, but the D1 for HLT is just objectively stronger. It's just objectively stronger. So I'm going to go with HLT. That is going to be my pick for today. Thank you for watching, everyone. Hope this was helpful, and we will see how HLT does tomorrow.